Next on 9 News, a second trial regarding the death of Elijah McClain has officially begun. This time, a jury will decide the fate of the first officer on the scene.
The NTSB says they think they know what caused a deadly train derailment in Pueblo as cleanup continues to reopen I-25.
And the CU women's basketball team looking to build on last season's Sweet 16 run. Their first game still weeks away, but they're already being recognized as one of the best teams in the country. 4 o'clock at 9 News starts now. Good afternoon. We start at 4 o'clock with the second trial for first responders involved in the death of Elijah McClain. That began today in Adams County. Nathan Woodyard was the first officer who responded to the report that McClain was wearing a mask and described as acting sketchy.
He and other officers subdued and restrained McClain before paramedics injected him with a sedative. McClain wasn't armed and wasn't breaking laws. Investigative reporter Kevin Vaughn has been in court all day, and he joins us now with more. Kevin?
Kim, a prosecutor and a defense attorney gave very different descriptions of this incident during their opening statements.
Hey, stop right there. Stop. Stop.
On that night in August 2019.
Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
Nathan Woodyard was the first Aurora police officer to confront Elijah McClain. Today, he was the third officer to go on trial in McClain's death. Woodyard faces a single charge, reckless manslaughter. Prosecutor Ann Joyce told jurors he put McClain in a neck hold that rendered him unconscious, starting a cascade of medical issues. And then he ignored his own training and McClain's pleas for help.
You have to remember that Mr. Woodyard was the primary officer. Elijah McClain was his responsibility. He is the officer who chose to use the carotid hold. He's the one that should be at his side. He's the one that is hearing Mr. McClain say, "I can't breathe." And yet, he does nothing to intercede.
Defense attorney Megan Downing said McClain's death was tragic, but it wasn't Woodyard who injected him with the sedative that killed him.
This is not a case about a training slide. This is not a case about whether policies were violated. It's not a case about whether mistakes were made or something could have been done differently. It is a case about whether someone, this person, caused another person to die, and he simply did not.
Now, those two officers that already went on trial, the jury acquitted one. They found the other guilty of criminally negligent homicide and third-degree assault. And the paramedics that injected that ketamine are set to go on trial in late November. Kim?
So much the similar testimony that we're going to hear and evidence that we're going to hear, Kevin. Yet we need to remember this is an entirely different jury and different defense attorneys and prosecutors, so everything could be different.
Yes, although today has started with some of the same witnesses that were called in that first trial, and we think this trial is going to move more quickly, but is going to involve a lot of the same evidence, even though it does involve a different defendant and a number of different attorneys.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, it only happened about 48 hours ago, but the NTSB does say they think they know what caused that deadly train derailment near Pueblo over the weekend. Investigators believe a broken rail triggered the derailment and started the chain reaction accident. Investigators are now looking into the cause of the broken rail and why warning systems didn't alert crews to the track's condition. They say that the broken rail happened before the derailment and resulting bridge collapse. The train and the coal it was hauling all came crashing down, and a semi-driver on the highway was killed. That driver, LaFollette Henderson, was 60 years old. The area there at I-25 is still closed as they continue cleanup.
A Denver police officer seen on video texting before she hit a pedestrian is costing taxpayers more than $500,000. The city council voted this week to move forward with a large settlement payout. Here's investigative reporter Jeremy Hahola, who obtained the video that captures what the officer said on scene.
September 2019. It's a late night on West Colfax near Metro State University. An officer's body camera records a moment that's about to cost taxpayers more than $500,000. There's no audio in this portion, but it shows the officer texting on her phone right as she hits Eric Zachmary, who was in the crosswalk with a friend. A second camera angle from RTD shows the impact. The officer gets out of her car as the audio and apologies begin.
I'm so sorry, sir.
I feel like something's broken.
I know, I have an ambulance coming. I apologize.
The officer driving, Jamie Taft, says on video she was distracted, not by her phone, but by a bike in her unit as the befuddled victim winces in pain.
That is the last person I would expect to get hit by.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. I have a bike in the back of my car and it moved and I thought it was breaking the door. So I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Flash forward a few years later, and Eric Zach Mary filed a lawsuit against the city and police for permanent injuries to his back.
Aye. Romero Campbell?
Aye.
On Monday, Denver City Council voted to move forward with a $557,000 settlement payout to Zach Mary and his attorney, an expensive violation
I just feel like the most gigantic.
at the taxpayer's expense. Jeremy Hohola, 9 News.
The officer was hit with a 38-day suspension. She eventually resigned and is no longer working as a police officer in Colorado.
Denver Fire responded to a fire at a homeless encampment today. It happened just after 9 a.m. at 22nd and Curtis. Denver Fire says one tent was involved in the fire and there was one possible injury, but that person left the scene. Right now we don't know how they're doing. Denver Fire's arson team is now investigating.
Let's take a look outside on a very warm Tuesday. What does it say, 85 degrees?
Yeah, it's 85. A little breezy at times, but certainly awfully warm for this time of year. Kathy's with us now talking about our very warm weather and I guess more of the same through the rest of the week.
Yeah, it's really unusual for October. This is usually the month we see the first snowfall, the first freeze, the first frost, and to have temperatures in record territory on multiple days is pretty unusual. Fire danger is something we'll be talking about as the winds increase ahead of a weak front that's coming in tonight. But outside, Kim, as you mentioned, it is indeed 85 degrees in downtown Denver. That is 20 degrees warmer than average. High and mid-layer clouds are coming in now ahead of that weak front, which will come through. We were hoping for a little moisture for at least the mountains, but nobody's really going to see rain or snow from this system. Temperatures will come down out of the mid-80s today into the low 70s tomorrow. Humidity values are on the low side. Look at this, single digits, teens. So you can imagine with the wind ramping up, the warmth, the dryness, certainly fire danger, something we'll be talking about. We're seeing some higher gusts to 20 and 30 miles per hour of some of the higher passes, and those gusts will increase to 50 miles per hour from Netherland up to Red Feather Lakes across the northern Front Range mountains and foothills with the arrival of that front a little bit later today. You can kind of see the high and mid-level clouds with that front kind of coming our way from the northwest. Not a lot of moisture with it. It'll be a dry evening, another dry day tomorrow, but certainly temperatures will be a whole lot cooler than what we're seeing today. So low to mid 80s now, dropping 10 degrees by sunset tonight. And then, of course, coming up in Maine weather, we'll detail the timing of the front. And then with these above average temperatures, we have another shot at seeing some record high temperatures this week ahead of a shift in the weather pattern and maybe some beneficial rain and snow for the state. So lots to talk about coming up.
Okay, a shift is something to chat about. All right, thanks, Kathy. E-bikes and e-scooters are all over Denver, but a new report finds that injuries related to them just keep on climbing. The report from the Consumer Product Safety Commission says fractures, cuts, burns, contusions, all from e-bikes, hoverboards, and e-scooters surged again last year by more than 20%. In fact, injuries from the devices have risen about 23% each year since 2017. More than a third of those injuries involved kids 14 and younger. There have been at least 233 deaths tied to the product also in that same time frame.